Ladies and gentlemen, it's time. Just pitch deck. So I'm gonna take off my glasses. This is Nick here from Only Fabs. We need to step it to the next level. Now, I was a bit hesitant about this, about the subject as a whole, or just in general. What's the use of it? I'm just trying to have fun, and that's okay. But if you plateau, and this one's thanks to you, Boeren, if you plateau on elo, you need to learn the next skill. And this is in a game of chess. This is really evident at a certain point. You see your rating, it's not growing. You're going 50-50 or you're even dropping. Your opponents are getting better and you are staying the same level. So that's your plateau. And you need to learn the new skills. Now, I'm not going to bore you with all the chess analogies. But pitch stacking, that's a box. And we could put stuff in it. But it's different for different formats, right? So if you're playing sealed, well, you have 30 decks. Now you can go through your deck a lot faster and the game's a lot grindier because you're not having a high powered level deck. So for sealed, it's probably required or even necessary to reach that higher level of play. So there's different levels of pitch stacking, how sophisticated you get with it. And shuffling is off limits. So in other words, if you're playing Viserai and you have those, what's it called? Become Dark Knight, or shuffling in form of Remembrance, then pitch stacking just isn't relevant anymore. Okay, so in Draft Sealed, you cycle the deck more often and it's a required skill. And in Blitz, only in certain matchups. Now, what does that mean? In the current meta, so I played a lot of Kasai, and Kasai is a mid-rangey hero, and currently it's losing ground versus the hyper-aggressive Briar and Chainstaff, and more control-y Oldhim decks who can grind it out. Now those decks, they go late, and they have actual merit in stacking the bottom of the deck, even in Blitz. Just because they know they will reach the point. But if you're versus a Briar, Oldhim, you will know your game will go beyond turn 10 and you will hit the bottom of your deck. More on that later. Now, in Classic Constructed, there's different levels of pitch stacking with regard to having a loose grasp of the bottom, just pitching 3 or 4 red cards early, and a general sense of what damage is in your deck or what combination of cards you want to be putting together. I have some examples of this. But another one, going back to formats make a difference. In Blitz is somewhere, I interviewed some players for this subject. It's not just me trying to come up with smart stuff. Blitz is somewhere in between, where games typically go by really quickly, where it doesn't matter and you don't have to fully cycle your deck. But if you are playing a deck that is slow and grindy, being able to pay attention to roughly pitch stacking is in your benefit. Now, this is what I'm referring to. Why would you even learn this? Why are you watching this video? Because you're interested in the subject. But if you're plateauing and you're just interested, what's the next skill? This one's it, baby. And this one's actually in it because is this a sink below Sigil of Soulless meta? So you have these terrible slow grindy decks, but you have these hyper aggressive decks that present 10 to 12 damage each and every turn. Now, how do you manage that? With, well, the Kodachi late game in Skirmish 2 in Blitz, Sigil was sufficient. Maybe one sink below just because he had a spare slot. Now, I strayed away from those, and I think this is a sink below meta. And this benefits pitch stacking. So actually playing a card and looking at your deck and being, maybe now I can benefit from sink below and a line strike to actually make a spicy bottom and up those pitch stacking counters. And I have a sheet about that later on. Okay, the different levels of pitch stacking, having a general grasp of what you're doing. Now, I asked the player during nationals in the Netherlands, do you actually know what's on the bottom of your deck? And he said, yeah, of course. And I was like, okay. So I asked him, Mr. Bauhaus, what what do you actually do to pitch deck? And I said, well, it's I need to at one point have 4 Intimidate, 3 or 4 Intimidate. One can come from Arsenal, and I actually need to have those cards together. But as Reinhardt, you don't always have the luxury to be in a game state where you can just say, okay, I want to pitch this card. I'll have to play this card, so I can only block 6 this turn, right? Because you have 2 cards there are being, one card being played, one being pitched, and one other one being played. So you don't always have the luxury to just block 6 when someone's coming at you for 20 or something. So I also want to have a loose idea of some cards that need to be together, like Alpha Rampage in the blue card, or Bloodrush Bellow in a 6 stack that I want to be able to discard. Now, these cards need to be together. Now, I didn't ask if you, because you draw 4 cards, right, or 1 card, that you need to know exactly how far along you are at the bottom, but you can always Dante your deck. Yeah, DDR, I made that joke. Now, if you want to at least try and challenge yourself, I started doing this. Guess what's at the bottom of your deck? And track your turns. And at this point, I was like, okay, it's the end of the game, full adrenaline, or bummed out because you lost, or adrenaline because you won. But take a moment, don't shuffle everything back. Just say, okay, so I think we played 5 turns, because I have like a multiples of 3 in my graveyard. So yeah, it should be about that, or it was the 4th turn that I cracked my Courage of the Bladehold, or something like that. Play that game with yourself at the end of the turn, just so you get a grasp of during off time actually figuring out what's at the bottom of your deck. Just make it a playful thing. Don't try to go hardcore on it straight away. So that's counting the turns. And how much damage would you be taking if you would be inefficient with your turn? And what I'm saying was the example with, okay, I'm just blocking 2 because I want to have this Bloodrush Bellow be combined with a 6 attack, and I need to have this 6 attack be pitched to the bottom of my stack. I think this is also the reason why Bauhaus wants to have a blue 6 attack in Everfest, or he will riot. Now, I made an example sheet for myself just to see, okay, but where are we at? And you're only seeing the bottom if you're going 10 turns in, right? Well, turn 2. That's about right. You will draw your first pitched cards. Now, sometimes, of course, you will draw 2 cards. Maybe sometimes you won't draw a card. Just 3 cards because you want to keep 1 card in hand and not Arsenal lock yourself. But remember, there are cards like Sink Below. So, versus Briar or Dorinthia that's going mad aggressive on you. If you're turn 3, 4, 5, you don't really have to mind what's at the bottom of your deck. And I've played a lot of decks where it wasn't useful to have this, but I'm thinking it's a useful skill to at least try and hone, so I'm playing this game with myself. And of course, at one point, I think you will actually need to learn this, especially in Sealed. So yeah, that's about it for me. I'm doing research on the pitch stacking thing, and I encourage you to at least try it yourself with the little game, or having a grasp of, okay, now it's useful to actually be mindful of what's going at the bottom of your deck. Try and learn tricks. Just view it as another aspect of the game where you can be a better player. So be gracious in defeat and humble in victory. Be mindful of your opponent if you've lost or if you win. And don't get discouraged by the metagame overlords. Play what you like and enjoy the game, because in the end, that's what it's here for. Having fun.